So in our last video we proved our first theorem, and in the previous video we saw the intuition behind Peano's axioms and why Peano's axioms are necessary to build a system that would enable us to count. And we had our examples in which we had pebbles and we enumerated them using our axiom system. So these four axioms that we stated in our previous videos, the first four axioms of Peano, they made sure that our enumeration system behaves in a perfectly linear fashion. By linear I mean not the linear in the mathematical sense, but the visual linear pattern that we have, and we needed it so that we don't have any confusions that if we start counting from 1, 2 and 3 and 4 pebbles, we are sure that the fifth pebble is going to be followed by the fourth one. And we saw that how these four axioms were important in making that possible. Continuing from the last videos, we had our axiom 4. We needed our axiom 4 so that our enumeration system, our counting system, our natural numbers would not behave in a circular manner like this. And we also needed another proof, another statement to make sure that this doesn't happen. And this was an added thing which was important in making sure that our system doesn't loop around like this. The other fact that we needed, it was not an axiom that we had. We derived it from these axioms. We used a proof by contradiction, and which was derived from one of the axioms, and this enabled us to refute, to make sure that this doesn't happen. Just like that, we'll see how two other theorems are needed to make sure that our system of enumeration, keep on saying that system of counting or our natural numbers only behaves in a particular way, the way that we want it to be. Now is this possible that our system behaves like this? Is it possible that the successor of the number could be successor this itself? And we have not explicitly stated it, but we can show that, we can prove this, that from these axioms, assuming that this statement is absurd. And another thing that could happen is this, that there are gaps in our system, that there are jumps in it. Now induction is one of the most important discoveries of our time. It is very unintuitive. In this part of the video I would like to show you how this actually works. I would like to show you the intuition behind it, and this is not very difficult. You just have to see that these two conditions are fulfilled, and if these two conditions are fulfilled, we'll be sure that this holds true for all of the natural numbers. So the first condition is that this is true for 1. And the second condition is whenever it is true for an nth number, it is also true for its successor. So if you want to see an example of it, suppose we have this linear system of counting, and if we want to prove something for a condition for this all of these numbers, we would like to make sure that it is true for the first number. So if we have a bucket, for example, and we are trying to put things in it, and if we are sure that the first one is in the bucket, and we are showing that whenever the other number, whatever it may be, whenever the other number is in the bucket, the one that follows it is also in the bucket. So this way we'll fill this whole bucket with our numbers. So this is the simple intuition behind induction. I'll give you some examples of it. There are two other theorems that we want to prove so that we'd be confident that our system behaves linearly and we can use it for counting. Let's prove this theorem. Let's prove that a successor of a number cannot be equal to its own successor. Now first we have to see what is the intuition behind it. Why is this needed? This is needed because we don't want this behavior. We don't want our counting system to be circular like this. So we have to prove this, that this cannot be, we have to say that this is absurd. Saying that it would be equal to saying this, actually. Now we can use induction to prove it. What we have to do is we have to make sure that these two conditions are fulfilled. Now once we are sure that both of these statements are fulfilled, we'll be sure to say that this is true for all of natural numbers, no matter how many they are. So the first condition, we'll have to see the first condition. What was the first condition? The first condition was that 1 is in the bucket, that it is true for 1. But is it true for 1? We'll have to see that. Now if 1, by axiom 1, if we recall, what was the axiom 1? The axiom 1 was that 1 is a natural number. So it is a natural number. So far so good. And by axiom 3, if you recall, what was the axiom 3? The axiom 3 was 1 is no number's successor. That 1 was our army-cosel of numbers, right? So we know by this that 1 has to be in the set. So we know the first number is in the set here. And whenever, the second part was to prove that whenever it is true for a number, it has to be true for the successor of it as well. Now let's see what it says here. Now do you remember what we proved in our first theorem? We proved that if two numbers are not equal to each other, then their successors are also not equal to each other. Well, if this is true, and we know we had proved it already that this is true in theorem 1. So if we just put in numbers here, we'd see that this is actually the same statements. If we just, in place of x, we put x prime, and then here also we'll put x prime prime, and in place of y, if we write x, so we'd see that this is also true. So whenever it is true for this, it's true for this, no matter what we take x to be. And so we have proved that this holds true for all of the numbers. And we have to make this a habit, that we have to write it in clear English why our proof works. And at the end of the proof, there is a convention that we either put this block or we write QED. So now by proving our second theorem, we have proved that this cannot be the case. And by this we are sure that the behavior or the circular behavior cannot occur. Now the other thing that we had, the other problem that could arise from our counting system is that there are gaps in it, and how to get rid of those. Now before I go to the other theorem, I want you to appreciate this, that the theorem is just indirectly showing that whatever truth we are establishing here is derived from these axioms, and we are not introducing anything new in the system. So the other theorem that we'd like to prove is this, that whenever, if x is not equal to 1, then there exists a u, another number, such that x is equal to the successor of u. By proving this, actually what we'd be showing that between two numbers there exists a number, and we will use induction to prove this. And now we have to see whether it works for 1 or not. This doesn't matter, because x is not equal to 1. This is one of the conditions, the prerequisites of the statement. So we see that the one holds, right? And whenever x it holds for x, then it also holds for x prime. Now suppose this statement were to be true for x. Suppose this was the case. Then if we change u to x, we can see that this holds for x prime as well. So we have proved the second statement as well, right? And so by fulfilling these conditions, according to axiom 5, we have shown that this statement holds. And so we have proved this also. And now we just reflecting it back, what have we achieved? Now we have our counting system complete. Now no matter how many pebbles we have a system to count them. Whatever the number we have, no matter how many pebbles we have, we'll always have an nth number to account for them, so that we could put that pebble in one-to-one correspondence with, and it will always have a successor. And this can go on forever. So this is our counting system, and we can use it to do so many things. We can count whatever we'd like to count with it. In our future videos, we would build the system even further, and the next video we'll see how addition is introduced. So these are the ways, these axioms is the way through which we have discovered the truth. With these instruments we have discovered a system of counting, and this is one of the representation of it. You can also represent it using a line. You can call this 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, 4 here, and so on. And these numbers are abstract, and we can name them. The first number we can call 1, and so forth. For example, for any number, for an nth number that occurs in a particular place, we can call it 344 or whatever. You've got the idea. In the next video we will talk about addition, and we'll prove another theorem using induction. And so far we have dealt with some easy proof, and the coming proof is going to be a little more challenging, but of course it would be a very useful theorem. Hopefully you have remembered the first adage. The first requirement of following these videos is that you have to forget everything you learned at school, and you have to take nothing for granted. So let's see you in another video.